Welcome to Perimenopausal Athletes and Beyond. We have a masterclass series filled with amazing experts across the board on female physiology, nutrition, training, recovery, mindset, inspiration, motivation, and we are being joined today by the beautiful Nikki Fogden-Moore. And I'm so excited that this is how we're going to start, because welcome first, Nikki. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad that you could join us, and thank you for saying yes. So basically, I want to tell everybody who you are that doesn't know yet, because we are in for a treat to have really, Nikki just is going to tell us how it is. She's no nonsense approach to finding that magic art of work-life blend. And we're going to just ask her a little bit how she feels about the word balance in a minute, but let's just make sure we say work-life blend for sustainable success. She works with CEOs, entrepreneurs, and high achievers to create value in their professional and their personal success. She's the author of Adulting the Rally of Life, Vitality, Fitpreneur, The Wake Up Workout, and creator of Quantum Decision Making Program. And basically, she is serving extraordinary leaders. She divides her time between private coaching, corporate vitality, boardroom retreats, and she has an excellent podcast. That's how I came to know her, The Mojo Maker. So I also wanted to share that in this idea of a work-life blend, Nikki was the head trainer for the Women's Health and Fitness magazine, and it's an incredibly important part of her everyday life. So this is how we're coming to, like, what are we going to create in this whole series? And Nikki, did I miss anything that we need to make sure that our listeners know about you?
I don't know. I mean, yes to all the above. I have crazy amounts of energy, and thanks so much for listening to the show, the Mojo Maker podcast. And if you guys are listening now, hop over to Vitality Coach TV or just search me on YouTube, because everything you hear here with me and Tennille, there's so much free content, and however I can help you, dive on in. So yeah, I just want to get started and use this time effectively as if we were in the room with everyone that's listening. And my only advice would be, if you're listening to this series with Tennille, to go, how does this relate to me and what can I get out of it? Because you only have 140 minutes in a day. So if you're listening to this, use it wisely, and then go and think, what am I going to apply from these calls? And think of me as your coach in the session. And I can't wait to help out Tennille. So far away.
All right. So I want to start with this idea, this word called courage. And Nikki has she has a 3-podcast series on this, starting with Dare to Pioneer, Taking the Unpaved Road, and the fun factor. So starting with where we're at today and where we want to go. So the listeners here, they are athletes, they have an inner athlete, some of them, and we're about getting to start lines, being our best selves, but we're in, it's our whole self. And so I want to just touch on this idea of courage and what it takes to step in to what this means, because it takes a whole lot of courage to get to start lines.
I think fundamentally, as humans and as women, anything else, there's been like massive shifts throughout time. From day dot, we always go through cycles in growth and evolution, right? But it's only lately that I believe that we've stopped kind of pointing the finger at everything and starting to have a severe case of accountability-itis, which is, I think we have grown up in a society where we've had a lot of subconscious programming and ways of thinking. So as soon as we kind of walk into this world, and from the very first moment we get told not to do something, suddenly we get given a framework that might not have really been our choice in the first place. And what I'm experiencing now is a kind of an uprising of voice, an uprising of self-discovery. And one of my concerns is the fact that we have to have a really interesting way to discern the information that we're getting for ourselves, right? So there's so much overload in the world. Overwhelm is a $300 billion industry in the US alone. And I find now that because of social media and even like probably being a mum, I mean, I'm only a mum to a Labrador, but I have a lot of children that I'm the Auntie Nikki for. And so parenting itself comes with a lot of judgment. Body image comes with a lot of judgment. I mean, we don't even, that's external judgment. And then we add all the conversations we have with ourselves. So I think true courage, and why I wrote the third book, Adulting, the Rally of Life, which is really, if you want sustainable success, and ultimately that's peace and happiness, right? Like it's health, it's, you know, throw whatever you want out the window. It's your absolute ability to get up in the morning and feel connected to your cellular level self. Go, oh my God. So a bit like a Labrador, like what are we doing? And I think everyone asks me, how can you bottle up your mojo and your energy? And it's because I have gone through so much and I just decided to absolutely show up for myself. And to do that, you have to unshackle yourself from all the limiting beliefs and the strong subconscious behavior. And there's a really beautiful analogy around courage, which is, what wolf do you want to feed? It's a beautiful American Indian story. You either feed the black wolf or the white wolf, the dark wolf or the white wolf, right? Your alter ego, which is keeping you predominantly in a false sense of security, or this tiny voice that sit within. And chances are, if you're coaching with Tennille and you're on this program, you've heard this little cry within that's like, there has to be something better. This doesn't feel right. I want to try and find out what that is. So that's your first step of courage, is daring to pioneer that no matter what your sisters, your brother, your mother, your friends, and anyone else is doing, you go, I'm going to start listening to myself. And that in itself is a scary statement, because you automatically alienate most people that you hang out with, because we're in an enabling society. So I always say to people, if half your conversations are about, oh my God, what went wrong, and la, 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 what a waste of effing energy, because instead of, you're just watering weeds, right? So when you start to discover courage to pioneer and do things that make you happy, that light your soul up, that give you energy, instead of following a prescription according to what everyone else is doing, it gets really uncomfortable, because you're letting go of the walls of discomfort. And you're going, I want to do this differently. And all of a sudden you've got to take a leap of faith, right? And there's a gap between leaping and landing. And that's where this work is really important, is the art of self-sufficiency. And I don't mean I don't need a man, or I don't need a partner, or I don't need a whatever. It's knowing that atomically, on a cellular level, every single human has the most incredible access to knowledge, quantum, in a quantum way. So that's physical, emotional, spiritual, and intellectual history that we all have. We just are on autopilot. So the first moment you go, my body's changing, I'm changing, my situation's changing, I'm going to start asking some questions, and you have that little bit of awareness, that's really where the journey starts. So that's where the rubber hits the road. And that's the scary bit, because most people then go back in their shell, because the unknown, fear takes over the curiosity of possibility. So to have courage is to be like a rally of life, which is to go, it's going to be all conditions, all seasons. I don't really know what's around the corner, but I just have this calling to go and find out. And I don't even know what the end result is, but I'm just going to take one step to go, what if I ask some questions? What if I ask some questions of myself? What if I sat in a room with all my friends? I was like, do I really resonate with these discussions? Do I resonate with the advice that I've been given and been following? And learning to go, your gut will always tell you in an instant if it's a yes or no. But then our head gets in the way, and it rationalizes ourselves away from what's truly good for us. So courage and the dare to pioneer aspect is going, this doesn't feel right anymore. This isn't serving me. I'm going to have the courage to replace fear with curiosity. That's the very first step. And that's where you start to be, you know, unimaginably supported by the universe, because it starts showing you the age of innocence again. And it's really cool, but you got to keep going.
Yeah, it is so absolutely perfect. Not only as we start this journey of this masterclass series, but as we, you know, as the whole series is for women 35 plus, those that are approaching perimenopause and have no idea what's coming, those that are in perimenopause and just going, what the hell's going on? And also in the training world that we're living in, there is this idea of overwhelm that you mentioned, of information about, okay, now women are not small men. How do we train? Is it different? You know, what do we do? How do we do it right? And therein lies the challenge that you're calling upon all of us to do.
Well, I think this is a really super interesting topic. So I have, if you look on, I actually stopped posting a lot of my fitness stuff because I kept getting pigeonholed in being, you know, Miss Fitness. And I didn't realize, I just want to share a story. I didn't realize, it's going to sound weird, how good a body I had. You can't see it here because I've got all my articles. I was like, I was so busy being in myself, I didn't realize how awesome I was. I really didn't. I had like a killer body. I was super fit, but because I had a bus accident at school when I was 11 or 12 and I broke my back and it was pretty horrific, but I never had a moment to really stop and think about that. I just kind of got on with it. And so I've always appreciated the usage of my body, the mechanics of my body. I've never thought of myself as a woman versus a man. I've always trained with men. I've always been in male-dominated sports and industries. I've never had that separation of body and state, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I would just work out using my gym. So I just work out according to what I felt like, according to going, wow, look, my body can do this. Or when I got hit by a car, I'd sit inside the garage on a wind trainer for 6 months to get continuous passive movement back in my knee. And, you know, I think this inquisitiveness about why not should replace the thought of, I'm a woman, I can't train like that. You can train however you want as long as it's right for you and your body. I just think we've got to stop going, this is a workout for men, this is a workout for women, this is a job for men, this is a job for women. I think like what's you, right? You as a whole entire being need to understand how you're built on a cellular level. So the first thing that you need to do is have the courage to stop all the labeling and associations with what you can't do and what's right, mm-hmm. and go, how well do I know my body? Do a body scan. You know, like I'm 46 now. Don't want to ever say that. Maybe we should block that out because I stopped at 32. And last year I taught myself to skateboard. Huge scars, by the way. It wasn't a good idea. But this childlike sense of like wonder about how my body heals, what it's capable of. You know, I use my fingers in the morning. When I get up in the morning, I say, thank goodness, I am so grateful and I really appreciate you, body. I haven't had any work done because I feel that I'm really happy that I have my own boobs. They're natural, they're healthy. You know, I think when you've lost everything, you appreciate your health and well-being. And I would say to any woman listening to this, retrain your brain on how you discern information coming in about, you know, training for women or training for you, training for your cellular makeup, your chemical makeup, where you sit now. Your training will evolve with you. And sometimes it's about going, right now, I'm tired and I'm just going to rest. You know, like, I just don't think we listen to ourselves. I call it, generation absorption, right? Everyone's going to conferences. Like I used to interview Dr. John DeMartini and I did this show series with him, and the same people would turn up at every conference. And I'd be like, if you were taking and applying the information, you wouldn't have to come back. So I think what we do is we serial absorb, but then we go, oh, that didn't work. But I ask you, what have you actually followed through on? Like, have you, after this thing, have you stood there and gone, where is my body? How can I send love and healing to my body? How can I, you know, open our hips up as women, work on our hip flexors? Like, your body will tell you. But as soon as you start labeling things like a workout for women, a workout for men, and you go down that rabbit hole, you just become a number and you lose connection to what's right for you at that point in time. So I'm very passionate about these subjects. So I'm going to give you long answers.
No, I think it's a really great place for us to come into conversation, because a lot of what we are going to be dealing with in the push and the pull is that we are learning things that are particularly, you know, women's estrogen level coming down, pelvic floor health changes. We can be aware of these things, we can take on. But I think as we listen and as we learn, I think your main message is like, hear it, but then do something that's right for you. Is that what I'm like? Well, hear what that science is saying, but at the end of the day, it's still you.
Yeah, and I think that science, and I think this is the whole point, Tennille, is that we should back up But what happens is fear and FOMO and over information and overwhelm can prevent you doing the basics. So sometimes we use information in science and we go and we use all that and we don't actually end up doing anything that are our basic vital ingredients. So I would ask yourself, am I fulfilling my basic foundations of my health and well-being before I put my body under duress? Like, why am I training like a military commander if I'm a mum of 3 and I'm just learning about premenopause and my body's changing? Why would you keep going to CrossFit 3 times a week and slash yourself and not go, hold on, I might need to like shift my coordinates a little bit because my body's tired? You know, we have the most incredible science within us. We're just so busy. We don't trust ourselves. I think that's the most important thing. I think this is about learning to take on board information and go, does that information feel right for me? And before you can even know that, you have to know who's making decisions inside yourself, Tennille. Is that your ego and your younger self keeping you safe? Or is that your true connection to your atomic heart, soul, and inner GPS, which goes, no, this feels right? And I tell you the way to discern the difference. Very simple. Our subconscious mind is the noisy, chatty, you know, I call it like Shaniqua. If anyone's called Shaniqua, I apologize. Mine's actually called Bob. But we all have a Shaniqua or a Bob, which is like, oh my God, and did this, and I tried that, and blah, blah, like it's just, you know.
Yeah.
And our self, our true centered self, is this beautiful, grounded, almost inaudible, no, yes, maybe, you know, there's no force or push, but our subconscious is extremely powerful. So when it feels that we're starting to make decisions that take us out of it being in charge, it's waiting, doing push-ups in the background. And the moment you have a weak moment, it'll get you and go, oh, you should have done that. Or maybe you should have gone on a detox for 3 weeks. So if you are making decisions from a noisy brain and a hypertensive state, that's not a good decision. So if you want to discern if that information is good for you, like, you know, I've done a lot of courses on integrative nutrition. I'm obviously a personal trainer. I've taught all around the world. And I think the biggest advice I always give to people in my classes and when I work with people is, how does this feel? Like, even if you go and reach for a multivitamin, does that, like, you can tell it's muscle testing, right?
Yeah.
You can tell. And I think with the course you're running is you're helping women connect with themselves to make conscious decisions. And that is the most powerful tool anyone on this course will ever have is this right for me at this point in time?
Can you help us think about then, so you're trying to come in, you're listening to a speaker, you're absorbing what they're saying, and you're asking, is this right for me? But you're starting from a point of what I know now. And I understand what you're telling us is to come into a really deep sense of self. But how do we learn to kind of bridge that, what I'm making these decisions based on this other preconceived idea of what I used to be, and I'm trying not to listen and be in a place of curiosity, but then go forward?
Well, a couple of things we can do. First of all, if you're listening to this, I will give you the worksheets on all of this as well. And I'll also, anyone on this, you can also, I'd like to, like, you know, make sure that you have, this is a doing book, right? So it should help you with that, because often when we go into states, like when we learn about premenopause, we come in a state of survival mode. We're like, oh my God, this is like, what am I going to do? The first thing you can do is you grab a piece of paper and you do a line down the middle and you do column A, column B. And column A is the ideal awesomeness, right? I want to feel well. I want to have balanced blood sugar. I want to feel my body's operating at its premium. I want to grow through this process and it not sap by energy and give me crazy mood swings. And I want my body to feel supported and not judged. Because our subconscious mind can go, oh, look, you're looking in the mirror, getting more belly fat. I used to be able to run 21K. I can't even run 5 now. So it's constantly going, it's chipping you down from your place of awesomeness.
Yeah.
So you've got to identify, this is all the information coming in. And then you write down your blurts. So you don't leave the conversation in your head. The trick is to start identifying the conversation with self. And if you haven't read Michael Singer's book, Untethered Soul, I recommend that book. I'll also give Tennille the links to Your Ego Is Not Your Amigo and some other things around how to discern the voice. But as I said to Tennille before we started recording, we never get rid of that subconscious self because it's our inner child that is just trying to cope. And you've just got to give her love and affection and go, hey, babe, I got this. You know, I understand that you're afraid and you're freaking out and you're losing control, but I have complete trust in myself. That shift will only occur if you actually take time to identify the conversation. Awareness is not enough, Tennille. We have to take action to write down the A and B, the attitude and the blurts. I want to do something right for me. Why should you start that now? I'd love to work on this program with Tennille. Nothing's ever worked before. See, it's this constant battle in our head of yin and yang, black and white. How exhausting is it just listening to this right now? So the moment that you write that down, you know what you're doing? You're having the courage to take accountability and go, I hear you, but I'm choosing to do great. It's okay, but I'm choosing the second thought.
Mm-hmm.
And that stills the mind. It's essential to write this stuff down. Essential.
Yeah. I think so. As we go through this series, it is really to take on, to hear something and then to know how that makes you feel. And then, let it go and then come back to it when you can really see, okay, let's chart my own path. Now, one of the big things that I want to ask you is, you also talk about how to work with a coach and what the role of coach is. And also, taking ownership, but how do you work with a coach in that? So, because a lot of this, as women in perimenopause coaches, in a traditional athlete coach relationship, we haven't had these conversations. It's like, this is what you do.
Yeah.
And I'm obviously taking a really different way of coaching, but I would want you to just bring a little bit of your thoughts of that as well into this conversation.
I think in life, not all coaches are created equal. And just because we have coach next to that, I saw something somewhere that said a 10-week course to become $1 million leadership coach for global leadership coach. I thought, how's that possible? You could do a 10-week course with an institution, and then all of a sudden you're a globally acclaimed leadership coach. If your coach does not have the ability to put themselves in your shoes, to be agile, to create a training program and to understand how you show up in that day, then they don't have the depth of knowledge and consideration and experience to make sure that you reach your personal best. Very important. It's not blame, it's understanding. Like anything in life, the coaching relationship is an extremely important relationship. Most Olympic programs, I remember I used to work, I ran an athlete management agency, and with life, you'd expect that most Olympic training programs, people will complete about 70% of that program because there'd be illness and unforeseen circumstances and everything else. A framework or a coaching program is purely that. It's a framework. It's not a prescription. And I think as a woman, it's like when you go to the doctor or when you go to your lawyer or your banker or your finance or anything else, you're allowed to ask questions and go, is this person here for my highest good, or are they there because they're just pushing information and regurgitating modules and learn things? How much knowledge do they have from experience, apathy, empathy, compassion? Where if I turn up to a coaching session, they go, hey, Nikki, you look really tired. How's your body feeling? I was going to do strength and conditioning today, but I think what would be really good would be to do some really slow stretches and oxygenate your body and just slow everything down. So a coach should have the ability to read you and teach you how to read yourself and give you a portfolio of tools that you can deploy at any given time, because our body is an organic machine. Mm-hmm. You don't know how you're going to feel on Friday at 7 a.m. So, and if you suddenly have to go and do stair repeats or anything else, and actually you've woken up and you're exhausted and you don't want to let your coach down, it's a two-way street. So in the video that you would have seen how to work with a great coach, you have to show up and meet each other like a great relationship. You can't just go, oh, that coach sucked because you only did 10% of the program, or you don't communicate how you feel. You have to work with a coach where you can be brutally honest and go, hey, Tennille, I feel so exhausted. I'm not coping at the moment. I feel like this program is just adding more stress to me. I've got 3 kids, 1 going to high school. My body's changing. I'm actually suffering from depression because I feel like my youth is going. And that coach goes, oh, don't worry, you'll be right. Let's do 100 burpees. You know, totally no empathy for what changes your body's going through. So coaching is a 2-way street, and you've got to ask yourself, you know, straight away when there's great chemistry, but don't put hope on a coach. Don't go, oh my God, I hope this coach is going to make me fantastic. And you put all your hope onto that person or onto that book or onto that program, because it's actually, how are you going to show up for yourself? You know, so working with a great coach, you have to have chemistry. Do you like each other? You have to have compassion. They have to understand where you're at in your life. They have to have considerable experience. You know, that to me, when you're dealing with people's lives like I do, I now have so many check-in points. I say, listen, I actually say no to majority of people asking to work with me, because I only work with 10 people a year anyway. But I think that it's safer to say no if you know that that person's not going to show up and they're not ready. And then the last thing is that you have to have great communication with your coach. You know, you have to be able to shift the coordinates and set some regular milestones and feel like together you're a team. And when you've got that, then you have a winning combination.
Yeah. It's amazing to me. I mean, to just go on to that, is that the key word there is a relationship. Oh, it's ownership, taking ownership of knowing thyself. First step, knowing thyself, so you can have.
I think that's your main message. And that would be my main message to anyone, because when you know yourself, you automatically attract the most amazing people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just, like, every time I make a decision, I always go with them first. Even when you reached out to me, I go and I ask my guides, should I do this? And they'll say yes or no. And I just trust them. I absolutely hand everything over to my team up there, you know, my galactic team, because I obviously work highly intuitively and on high definition. So I stop trying to fight it and control it, and I just tune in on everything. Do I want a coffee? Yes, I do. Off I go, I'll make one, you know. But I practice it on a small basis.
Yeah.
And what you're giving everyone on this course is the learning. We all know what we should do. We know about mindset. We know about time management. We know about work-life balance. We know, but it's the doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the only thing that gets in the way of the doing is the overthinking.
Mm-hmm.
So that ownership makes you do stuff. It's like, hold on a second, how am I going to show up for myself?
Yeah. Well, okay, so we're going to have to leave it there, but it's a perfect way to leave it. How am I going to show up for myself? And every day, either there'll be a new speaker, and it's really coming into, what can I take from this? How can I hear this for myself, for where I'm at? And is this going to work for me? And that is so perfect. All right. I'm going to ask you rapid fire questions. They're going to have to be rapid. All right. Are you ready?
Always.
Okay. Give us one moment of courage.
Moment of courage would be, God, it's not so many. I would say driving a boat back in the biggest swell conditions with no lights and an injured person on board, and I had to figure out how to use GPS and everything in the middle of nowhere, and that was like a G.I. Jane moment. Yep.
And you did it.
I did it.
Yeah. A happy story, right?
Okay, yeah, it was pretty, like, it was like storm chasers. So that was a big moment of courage for me. Yeah.
Big deal. Yeah. All right. Tell us one thing that you're grateful for right now.
I think a community that is able to have these conversations, and a platform where I can reach out to people I've never met and help them and be who I am, and that we genuinely are here to lift up, support, and encourage others and empower them. That to me is just, it gives me goosebumps.
Oh, it's very cool. Give us one piece of advice that you continuously give to yourself within this life stage?
Well, I've only got one piece of advice, and that this life isn't a dress rehearsal, you know.
Yeah.
And I wish I had known all the stuff I coach now earlier, which is bring your whole effing self to your life. Just bring it. Don't wait. Don't sit back. Don't be afraid. Suit up. You know, if you have to wear Wonder Woman undies every day to do it for a week till you get in the habit, do it. I send all my clients superhero undies.
Love it. I might have to steal that idea. I think that's absolutely brilliant. All right. Okay. So you have provided our listeners with 30% off of your new book, The Adulting Rally of Life. And it's a real action book. Do you want us to just tell us a little bit more about that?
So all my books, Vitality, Fitpreneur, you can get anything Mojo 30, right? So your clients can get, anyone that's listening will get an evergreen code for anything of mine. This really will talk you through the mindset and the shift to get in the driver's seat, right? So whatever you want to do, whether it's family, personal training with Tennille, it will help you unlock those old limiting beliefs and take you through the 7 checkpoints where you're totally feeling excited, enriched, and celebrating what you're doing, and you can overcome roadblocks. It's all workbooks, worksheets, exactly how I coach. And it really is like the essential roadmap. We can't live on a 1960s operating system for 2021 and beyond. So we need to redo our hard drives. And this book is it's like a little James Bond toolkit that will have you ready for life.
Oh, I love it.
And you get me, so you get me with it. And it's full of quotes. You also get a free quote set of JPEGs. And, it's just, I wanted to provide something that was downright practical and would shift people from chaos to calm like that.
Mm-hmm. Get rid of that overwhelm. Yeah, I love it. Okay. And where people can find you? We'll put in the website below.
Yep, vitalitycoach.com.au, or just type in nikkifogdenmoore.com, YouTube and the podcast. Also, the books are on Amazon and everything else, but I'd love you to come follow me on YouTube. I've never really pushed the channel. I'm really excited about it. We're going to do some cool things there with some great interviews, and love to hear your stories. So come like, comment, subscribe, and anywhere else I can help. So Instagram at nfogdenmoore, all that jazz.
Well, thank you so very much for getting us on to the right foot here all together. And on we go to have an amazing masterclass series. And thank you very much for joining us, Nikki. That's been brilliant.
Well, thank you so much for having me and for listening to my passionate conversation. But all I can say is, oxygen mask first, ladies. You got this. There's nothing sweeter than bringing yourself into alignment, and you will get there with amazing people like Tennille that are navigating you through that. So, you define what your own courage is, right? Be inspired by others, but pave your own way is what I say.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nikki.
Okay. Thanks, Tennille. Have a great evening. Bye, everyone. See ya.